Welcome back. I'm Jenna, and this is Learn Academic English, where I teach intermediate and advanced level lessons for English learners who want to take their language to the next level. I've been teaching grammar for a long time, and one of the things that I've noticed is that when I'm explaining grammar, I often have to tell my students, well, but native speakers often don't say that. And it gets confusing because when the English learners are trying to understand the grammar and to understand the patterns or the structures that grammar follows, and then they go outside and they notice that native speakers are not using it correctly, they might feel confused. Who is correct? The grammar book or the native speakers? Or did I understand the rule correctly? Why are native speakers using something different? So today I'm going to show you just 5 grammar rules. These are all rules that, according to prescriptive grammar, which means the old grammar rules that the language is supposed to follow, these are the rules. But in modern day English, especially in conversation, these rules have often been abandoned. And you know what? No one cares. Okay, before we get into that, please don't forget to give this video a like if you find it helpful, leave a comment and practice with me below, and subscribe if you want more lessons like this one. And don't forget that if you want to practice with me and receive a personal lesson from me every week, you can join my Instagram subscribers community, and I'll leave a link to that in the description box below as well. So let's take a look at the first one, and you're going to notice that in red is the form that most people use, but the black is the prescriptive grammar rule. All right, let's look at the first one. The rule says that when you use the relative pronoun who, and when it is the object, you must use whom, not who. For example, for whom is this letter? Or this letter is for whom. Okay, it's the object of the preposition for, so we use whom. What's the problem? The problem is that almost nobody uses this.
Sleep with who? Whom?
The reality is that most people just use who, whether it's the subject or the object. Now remember that with who, we always use who if it's the subject, okay? And if you use whom as the subject, that sounds strange. For example, who is coming to the party? Who is the subject there, okay? Who is coming to the party? I am coming to the party. But if we ask, this letter is for whom? Whom is the object of the preposition, and we could also say the letter is for me, okay? Or, whom did you invite to the party? I invited her, okay? Object. But when who is the object, we usually use who, not whom. The rule tells us to use whom, but most people just use who.
Who? What did you see?
The letter is for who, it's for her. Who did you invite to the party? I invited her. Okay, let's go to number 2. Number 2, it is I. Who is it? It is I. Okay, so what's happening here? Well, because we have the verb be and not a transitive verb, this is actually not the object, okay? So if we say, for example, I like her, like is a transitive verb, her is the object. But here, it is I, this is the be verb. And in fact, the prescriptive grammar rule says that we need to use the nominative or the subject pronoun here. But the reality is, nobody says it is I.
It's me.
My grandmother said it, but I hardly ever hear anyone say, it is I. And if I do hear it, it sounds very formal and very old-fashioned. And most people just say, it's me. It's me, and that's fine.
It's me.
However, you should know that on the phone, people do say, this is she, or this is he. For example, hello, can I speak to Jenna? This is she. This is Jenna. we usually don't say this is her, we usually say this is she. So on the phone, we do stick with that old rule, but again, most of the time, if you say who is it, it's me. Okay, next, number 3, never split an infinitive. That's the prescriptive grammar rule. What does that mean? For example, we can say, he seems to really like her.
Well, he seems to really like her.
What happened here? We have the infinitive verb, right? To like. And when we have the infinitive to like, we should never put this word in the middle. We should never split an infinitive. The reality is that we often use this and nobody cares, okay? For example, he seems to really like her. Or in Star Trek, there is a famous line, to boldly go.
To boldly go.
Should be to go boldly, but again, nobody cares. Okay, number 4, don't end a sentence with a preposition. Now, this is actually an interesting rule because according to some people, this may not actually even be true or be correct. Because there are many situations in which we have to end the subject with a preposition. I mean, you can move it, but often it sounds clunky. Especially because we use so many phrasal verbs in English, and those usually end in a preposition. Okay, so the rule says don't end a sentence with a preposition, but again, people do it all the time. In fact, it might even be grammatically correct, and you know what? Nobody cares. For example, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know what you're talking about. Well, about is at the end of the sentence. The old grammar rule would say this, I don't know about what you are talking. But that sounds funny, doesn't it? So again, we usually will end sentences with prepositions, no big deal.
You don't know what you are talking about.
Okay, next, number 5. You know that the pronoun everyone, everything, everybody, that those are singular. And they do need to have a singular verb, okay? Everyone is. We never say everyone are. But if we have a pronoun, because everyone is singular, the pronoun should also be singular. For example, everyone has his test. Wait, there are some women here too. So let's say everyone has his or her test. Well, that's getting kind of long and kind of annoying that we have to use 3 words here as the pronoun for everyone. So what has happened over time? We just use their, and that's totally fine. Everyone has their test. Everyone has their own way of doing things.
Everyone has their secrets.
Has everyone lost their minds?
Okay, so this has actually become increasingly acceptable recently because of the influence now of gender-neutral pronouns. And again, this is totally fine. A really nitpicky, like traditional grammar person would say that it should be his or her, but in general, we just use their and nobody cares. Okay, I would love to know what you think about these grammar rules. If you're a stickler for these prescriptive grammar rules, what do you think when people use the more common ways? And if you're an English learner, what do you think about these rules? Do you try to stick to them, or do you sometimes use the red ones, which is the way that we often use them in speaking and even in writing? If you would like to practice these at home, please note that I have a link to a handout that you can use to see these examples. So please let me know if you have any questions, and be sure to practice with me in the comments below. I always leave a question in the description box that you can use to practice. I hope to see you back here again soon. Take care.